horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty hi-yo silver. The Lone Ranger.
For some time, the territory surrounding the town of Bakerville was terrorized by a trio of outlaws. Their leader was a man who had become known as the Quiet Highwayman. He always wore a hood over his face, and no one had ever heard him speak. As the list of robberies mounted, the citizens of Bakerville grew increasingly anxious, and Sheriff Lathrop, unable to cope with the situation, presented a hapless target for their anger.
Well, Sheriff, how about it?
How about what, Frank?
You know doggone well what I mean. That outlaw pack, you got a line on them yet?
Well, we've been following a few promising leads.
Leads? You've been saying that for 6 months now. We don't want leads, we want action. Yeah, it's getting so decent folk are afraid to stir out of town with that Quiet Highwayman and his men on the loose. Any sheriff worth his salt would have had him behind bars long ago.
Oh, hold on now, fellas. You're being unfair. Me and my men are doing all we can to round them up. You've got to realize this Quiet Highwayman's a pretty smart hombre.
Outsmarting you? I reckon even a donkey could manage that.
Well, I wouldn't laugh too hearty if I were you. The way that fellow operates, could be someone here in town.
How do you figure that, Sheriff?
Well, you've noticed every time somebody leaves this town with anything of value in their possession, that gang finds it out, there's another holdup. That means they have a way of knowing everything that goes on here.
Sheriff, folks could even suspect you of being the Quiet Highwayman.
Ed Bates, are you going to keep me sitting on the buckboard in the hot sun all afternoon? I declare, once you start dabbing with these store loafers, a body never knows when she'll get home.
I'm coming right out, Flora.
Well, see you do, or I'll just drive away and let you walk. And don't forget, we've got to stop at the Bar Y spread and buy those horses before we get home.
Laura seems a bit riled, Ed.
As long as she's riled about something, Sheriff, she's happy. Oh, you reckon I'll be safe in carrying a couple of $1,000s in cash with me over to the Bar Y? You see, I want to pay for some prize horses I'm buying.
Oh, I don't think those outlaws will suspect you of carrying that much money, Ed. You and Flora drive to town a couple of times a week. You haven't been bothered yet.
Edward!
Yes, love, I'm coming.
I guess I'd better be getting along myself. Got some paperwork to catch up on.
I sure am glad, sir, that I was able to spend my vacation from school with you and Tonto.
So am I, Dan. After all, you're my favorite nephew.
But I'm your only nephew.
There should be plenty of excitement for you this trip. You know, the United States Marshal has asked Tonto and me to help in a search for the Quiet Highwayman and his gang.
I wonder why people call him the Quiet Highwayman.
And he wears a hood, Dan, never speaks. According to the testimony given by his victims, he uses a system of prearranged signals that his men follow during a holdup.
Maybe he's afraid someone will recognize his voice.
My thinking exactly, Dan. Seems to indicate that he's a person well known around Bakerville.
Ready now, Kimasabi.
Hey, where are we going?
Tonto and I are going to search the hills for the outlaws' hideout.
What about me?
I want you to ride into town, Dan, and see what you can pick up in the way of information.
I'll do my best, sir.
And be careful. Don't let on what you're up to. Tonto and I'll meet you back here later.
Howdy, son. The name's Bates of the Circle B, and this here's the wife.
Glad to meet you. I'm Dan Reed.
Right pretty hunk of horse flesh you got there. How'd you like to sell him?
Sorry, Mr. Bates, but he's not for sale.
Oh, I'm prepared to offer a pretty good figure.
No, sir. I couldn't put a price on Victor.
The quiet highwayman. Grab your guns, son. We'll stand them all.
No, Mr. Bates. We can't risk gunplay. Your wife might get hit.
All right, everybody, reach. What's that, boss? Says for you to get down off that buckboard. You too, young fella. Come on, snap it up, snap it up. Means you too, fatty.
Ed Bates, are you going to let him talk to me like that?
Better do as he says, dear.
I never. I declare, if you had the gumption of a gopher.
Keep him covered, Slick. I'll search him.
That's right. Don't raise a finger, Ed Bates. Just let him help himself.
Here's the cash they were carrying, boss. What about the woman? Do you want me to search her, too?
You lay a hand on me, you black-hearted cutthroat, and I'll scratch your eyes out. You ought to be ashamed of yourselves, young fellas, galloping around with masks on your faces, holding up hard-working, law-abiding citizens. Oh, I never heard of such an outrage. Mark my words, you'll be sorry. There'll come a day...
Shut up, will you?
He told me to shut up. Did you hear that?
I sure did.
Well, aren't you going to do something?
Flora, it cost me $2,000 to hear somebody tell you to shut up. And by golly, I'm beginning to think it was worth it. Come on, son, let's see if we can find our guns. I'll tell you, it beats all, Sheriff. As many times as me and Flora have shuttled back and forth between town and the ranch and never been bothered before. And yet, the very day that I'm carrying the $2,000, how did they know?
With your blabbermouth, Ed Bates. Wouldn't surprise me none if they knew about it clear over in Jenkins County.
In a way, she's right, Ed. You did happen to mention that money this noon in the store. Remember? If that's the case, most anybody in town could have tipped off that gang. This young man you spoke about. You say he rode off directly after the holdup?
Yes, he said he had to visit some friends.
Ever occur to you he might have been a decoy sent out by those bandits to detain you so they could close in?
Say, I never thought about that.
You never think of nothing, Ed Bates, except in your precious livestock.
Well, anyway, I'll keep my eye peeled for him. I'll form a posse and we'll fan out and comb the countryside. This time we might have some luck.
Such a nice boy, you said. Nice indeed. If he was so nice, why, I'd like to know, was he in such an all-fired hurry to leave? For the moment I laid eyes on him, I
Wait a minute, Sheriff, I'm going with you.
Ed Bates! You come back here this instant.
You got back sooner than we expected, Dan.
Yes, sir.
I hope you had better luck than Tonto and I did. We couldn't find any trace of the outlaw's hideout.
You learn anything in town, Dan?
I didn't get to town, Tonto.
Why not?
I met the quiet highwayman.
What happened, Dan?
Well, about 4 miles outside of Bakerville, a man in a buckboard stopped me. He said his name was Bates. He wanted to buy Victor.
Maybe that Ed Bates came, Miss Abby. Me hear of him before. Him good man, a horse dealer.
He had his wife with him, too.
Oh, squaw who scold all the time like angry magpie?
That's right.
Me meet her once before, a long time ago. She talk too loud, talk too much, make headache.
I think she made the outlaws' heads ache, too, Tonto. They came along a few minutes after Mr. Bates stopped me. We saw them coming. But I didn't want to use my gun, sir, because of Mrs. Bates.
You did right, Dan. How many were in the group?
3. The leader, the quiet highwayman, didn't say a word. He just motioned with his hand when he wanted the others to do something. They took Mr. Bates's wallet.
Were you able to tell whether Mr. Bates was carrying a large sum of money?
Well, he mentioned later that the meeting with the outlaws had cost him $2,000.
I see.
Naturally, all the outlaws were masked. I'm sorry, sir, I wasn't able to see their faces.
Now, think hard, Dan. Was there anything else that might help us in identifying these outlaws?
One of them was addressed as Slick. I also noticed their boots. All 3 of the outlaws had traces of dry red mud on their boots.
The leader, too?
Yes.
It might be an important clue, Tonto. Dan's observation might help us in ferreting out the ringleader.
How we do that, Kimasabi?
We'll ride to Bakerville. I'll wait in a grove of trees nearby while you and Dan ride into town and look around. Keep your eyes open for any man who has red mud on his boots.
No use, fellas. They've given us the slip again. We might as well head back to town.
Plenty of people in general store. You look there. Me hang around cafe.
Right.
Tell you what, you drop into my office later, we'll see what we can work out. I'm sorry you had to wait so long. I had to close up for a while this afternoon. Some produce had to pick up over in Clintburg. Took longer than I expected. Now, let's see what else here. Oh, yes, a buggy whip. I'll have it up for you in a jiffy.
Listen, Tonto.
No time to talk now, Dan. We hurry back to Lone Ranger.
You covered. Now hand over that hardware, nice and gentle like. Well, business is picking up, boys. Seems we finally nailed ourselves one of the outlaws.
Now, hold on, Sheriff. I'm not an outlaw.
Oh, sure, I know. You're wearing that mask because you're on your way to a costume ball. Keep him covered, men. If he twitches a muscle, let him have it. This time I'm gonna find out who this zombie really is.
I wouldn't touch that mask if I were you, Sheriff.
Drop gun. You covered.
You heard him. Drop. Pronto.
Better do it, fellas. They got us surrounded. We're sitting ducks for their pot shots out here in the open.
Good work.
We've been tricked. There's only two of them.
In this case, Sheriff, two are enough.
You must be the young fella Ed Bates was talking about.
We see horses tied at edge of grove. Know something wrong. We turn horses loose.
I imagine we'll meet again, Sheriff, and soon. When we do, perhaps I'll explain a few things. Adios.
No sign of posse following, Kimasabi.
Yes, Tonto. They're probably back in their stables by now.
Last time we saw them, they were running mighty hard.
Walk back to town, do sheriff and posse good.
That's right, Tonto. Sure, they'll try to pick up our trail again as soon as they get organized. We'll have to work fast from now on. Did you have any luck in Bakerville?
Plenty luck, Kimasabi. Me stand outside cafe. Soon two men come by. One have red mud on boots.
Did you follow him?
Not have to follow. Him go to office right next door. Him land engine, name Canby.
Good work, Tonto. How about you, Dan?
Tonto and I split up. I took up a position outside of the general store. It wasn't long before I noticed the storekeeper's boots. He's one of our men, too, sir.
So the land agent and the storekeeper both had red mud on their boots.
That's right, sir. We both saw them.
Complicates matters, doesn't it?
You think one of them outlaw leader, Kimasabi?
From the looks of things, Tonto, it's a possibility worth checking into. Dan, I believe you mentioned hearing one of the outlaws called by name.
Yes, sir. His name was Slick. Why?
I have an idea how we may be able to trap the leader. Now, here's what we'll do. After dark tonight...
What's the idea?
You not need gun. Me friend, here know it explain.
Let me go, Injun.
You stand still.
Boss, the Indian can be trusted. We caught this young maverick nosing around the hideout. He was with that rancher today and must have followed our trail somehow. I told the Indian you'd pay him for bringing the snooper to you. Signed, Slick. Slick. I don't know any Slick. What's your game, Indian?
No game. Fella say you remember young hombre. Say you pay cash to get him.
Get your hands up pronto, Indian. I don't know what kind of a trick you're trying to play on me, but we'd all better go over to the sheriff's office and let him get to the bottom of this.
Come on, then.
I heard everything. Come on.
Hey, what is this?
Would explain everything.
So Slick wrote this, huh?
Ah, him say you give me plenty cash.
Sure, Injun. I'll see that you get everything that's coming to you. So you're interested in this, eh? All right, mister, what are you trying to pull?
Pull? Me not try pull anything.
Don't hand me that. Slick didn't write this. He couldn't have. Right after today's holdup, Slick rode over to Clintburg to visit his brother. Too bad. Your little scheme didn't pay off, did it?
What are you gonna do?
Oh, what could I do? I've no choice. I caught you two red-handed breaking into my office. I had to shoot you in self-defense.
I'd advise against it, Canby. Pick up his gun, Tonto.
Drop that gun, Injun. Don't anybody make a move. This time I'm taking no chances. The place is surrounded.
You got here just in time, Sheriff. These men were trying to rob me.
Canby's lying, Sheriff. We didn't try to rob him.
Lying? Why should he?
Because he's the quiet highwayman.
Did you ever hear anything so ridiculous?
Look here, Sheriff. Here's his hood.
How about it, Gil?
Use your brains, Sheriff. These men planted it here. They're trying to frame me.
If there's any doubt in your mind, Sheriff, this should clear matters up. Here's a letter from the U.S. Marshal in Austin.
Great day. Why didn't you show me this earlier?
Sheriff, for all I knew then, you might have been the quiet highwayman.
Well, if I'm the quiet highwayman, how do you account for the fact that I never once left town yesterday, and I have witnesses to prove it?
Ned Bates was held up by the quiet highwayman this afternoon. Seems like we're right back where we started, mister.
What about Frank Atkins? Do you know whether he left town today?
Come to think of it, he did. Said he was going to pick up supplies. Oh, if you're figuring Frank for the highwayman, you're barking up the wrong tree.
Why is that?
Because last week when Judge Grissom was held up for the quiet highwayman, Frank was in court serving jury duty.
Gil's right, mister.
Yes, but you, Canby. Where were you when Mr. Grissom was being robbed? Away on some important business, no doubt?
Say, that's right.
Don't you see, Sheriff? There are two quiet highwaymen.
Two?
That's the reason for the hood and why the leader never speaks. Not so much that he doesn't want to be recognized, but he doesn't want people to find out he's two entirely different men.
I don't get it. Why?
So they can alibi for each other. If Atkins was out of town like today, then Canby here would make it his point to remain in town, and vice versa. What about it, Canby?
Say, your hunch is correct.
There's one sure way of finding out. Come on, Sheriff.
Come on.
And the storekeeper acted so innocent.
Dan, an innocent man would have reported his encounter with you and Tonto to the sheriff instead of running away.
Him not that far, Kimasabi.
Sheriff, where would a man have to go around here to pick up traces of red mud on his boots?
Well, the only place I know would be Red Mesa.
Well, what are we waiting for?
We'll take Canby with us. He might come in handy. Let's go.
Frank, horseman.
Can you make them out?
They're still too far away. Looks like a posse to me.
They're headed our way, all right. There's no doubt about it. It's a posse, all right. I recognize the sheriff. They're close enough. Let them have it.
Look at them scatter.
Atkins? You hear me, Atkins? In the name of the law, I call upon you and your men to come out and surrender.
There's your answer. What now?
If it gets much darker, they'll be able to get away before we can stop them.
We gotta do something fast.
We will, Dan.
What's happening?
I don't like it. They're too quiet. There hasn't been a peep out of them in 15 minutes. You think they're up to something?
Relax. As long as we're here and they're out there, nothing's going to happen. Somebody's coming on foot, running hard.
You think they're rushing us?
No, whoever he is, he's alone.
And that's the way he's gonna die.
Hold your fire, it's Gil. He must have escaped from the posse.
They spotted him.
We've got to try and cover for it. Gil's been hit. Go on, try and get to him, Slick, and I'll cover you. worth keeping them.
Drop your guns.
Hold your fire, mister. Look, masked man, give us a break. I'll make it worth your while. That $2,000 we stole from Ed Bates, it's still in my saddlebags.
No sale, Atkins. Seeing you and your men behind bars will make it worth my while.
Keep 'em covered, boys.
You'll find another one cooling off back there, Sheriff.
That's nice work, mister.
You'll check Atkins' saddlebag. You'll find the money they stole from Ed Bates. And probably a lot more loot.
It's a lucky break for you, Sheriff. With a hideout like this, Gil and I could have gone on operating forever.
Perhaps you're right, Frank. If it weren't for the Lone Ranger.
Hail Silver!